Hey, this is Wendy with Loaves and Dishes, and today we are going to be talking about can you freeze pot roast? And there's a really simple and quick answer, and that is yes, you can freeze pot roast. First, I want to show you some of the reasons you might. This is a beef chuck roast. I literally was at the grocery store, and the butcher was going around and putting out the day's, reduced meats. And I got this for some of them less than half of the original price. Like that one was $11 and something, and I paid $6.73. Here's one that was started out as $12.79, and I paid just a little more than $5. So you can see what a great deal that is. If I'd just been to the grocery store a little bit earlier, those would have all been full price. So you can't beat a deal like that. So yes, you can freeze pot roast. You can freeze raw chuck roast like this, or any other roast you have, or you can freeze it once it's cooked. The difference being that once it's cooked, if you get carrots and potatoes in there with it, that's fine. They'll freeze just fine. But you don't want to put raw potatoes and carrots in with your raw pot roast because they'll just be mushy after you get them out. Make sure that you're using a freezer safe container. In this case, I'm using freezer zip style bags. They don't have to be name brand. You can see I'm using store brand. And here's the information you want to put on your label. You want to put what's in the bag. So for me, it's a chuck roast. And I'm going to put the size, which is a 1.64 pound chuck roast. And I'm putting it in on April the 7th of 23. Now I know that's going to be good in my freezer for at least 6 months. So I'll have that amount of time to cook these up. And since I cook a lot of meals for my family, this is going to be great. They'll probably all go in the crock pot together and make one big family dinner for everyone, and it'll save me some money. So I don't know, as you get older, you can't open anything. I have to use a knife for everything. So you just want to get your chuck roast out. You don't necessarily even have to take it out of the styrofoam package. I just don't like trying to thaw them in those styrofoam trays. So I take it out and put it in this Ziploc style freezer bag. Then you want to seal it up good. You want to make sure you've got as much of the air out as possible. And how I did that was by folding it over. So see, not much air left in there. And the reason you do that is because the less air in the bag, the less problem with freezer burn that you're going to have. So now I'm going to get my next chuck roast out. This is a Big Mac Daddy size one, and it is 4.3 pounds. It's a chuck roast. See how simple this is? You just put what it is that's in the plastic, the date that you put it in, the size that it is. So like if it's chicken thighs I'm putting in there, I always put the number because you think that you'll be able to tell that that's 4 chicken thighs in there. But the truth is, when you're digging back through the freezer trying to find what you need, you can't tell there's 4 chicken thighs in there. I wouldn't know what size this roast was unless I put on the package what size it is. And the reason that's important is because when you're making chuck roast or you're making a pot roast, you want to allow about a half a pound of chuck roast per person. That's slightly more than you want to allow for like hamburgers or some other cut of meat, because there's a lot of fat in chuck roast, and when you cook that, when you roast it or put it in the crock pot or whatever, a lot of liquid's going to come out, a lot of fat's going to come out, and it's going to be much smaller when you're finished. So if you're doing a chuck roast, always allow a half pound per person. And that's one of the reasons that you want to put the size of the chuck roast on there. It's not so important for like your other ingredients that you cook your chuck roast with. But you just continue doing this till you have all of your product you want to freeze in Ziploc bags. I know most people don't buy 4 at a time. Actually, I was really doing good to not buy every one he put out because he had 4 or 5 more he put out. I almost bought them all, but decided I'd leave some for somebody else rather than being a chuck roast order. Anyway, now how are you going to cook this chuck roast? Let's talk about that while I finish sealing the last one up. My favorite recipe is to do it in a in a crock pot, and you can find that on the website at Loaves and Dishes for all the secrets to perfect tender pot roast. There's also another great way to do it, and that's the bacon bag by McCormick. It has seasonings in a bag all in the same package. It's pretty cheap, like a couple bucks, and you just put the chuck roast in there with 4 cups of vegetables and I think half a cup of water, and put it in a baking dish and bake it for 2 hours, I think. That makes a really good pot roast. That's a great way to make one, especially if you are not a seasoned chuck roast maker. So that's a great way to do it. So you just do this, stick it in the freezer. When you're ready to use it, get it out and let it thaw. Put it in the refrigerator like a day or two before you're going to use it and let it thaw. Or you can put it in a bowl of cool water in your sink, and that will thaw it even quicker. That's it, y'all. I hope that you will come visit me over on the Loaves and Dishes website. You can check out the Dorks with Sporks podcast, which is my daughter Sarah and I, who usually runs this YouTube channel. We review restaurants on there. But here you go. Here's all the chuck roast we've put up today. See how easy that was? I put up 4 whole chuck roasts in less than 5 minutes, and you can too. Look at that delicious pot roast. Doesn't it look great? Okay, I'll see you next time. Be sure to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.